and we're live with the Pitch Wars live show. Tonight's edition is our fabulous middle grade author mentor people, and they are fabulous. We've been laughing for like the past 30 minutes. I'm Nikki Roberti. I'm Brenda Drake's assistant, and I'm a young adult mentor, but tonight's about these guys, so I'm going to let them take it away.
Hi guys, I'm Abby Cooper. That's Lewis Cooper. He's not a mentor, he's just here for moral support. He dressed up for you, he wore his bow tie. I am the author of Sticks and Stones, which just came out last week, so I'm still in the phase of like squealing every time I get near it, which is a lot because I keep it with me everywhere I go. This book was actually involved in Pitch Wars in 2013. My mentor was the wonderful Gail Null, and she and I are co-mentoring together this year. So if you have any super awesome contemporary MD, we like stuff with magical realism, with mystery, any little twists and turns, send us all your cool stuff, and you can have some more time with Lewis, like on videos and pictures and stuff, and he's delightful, even though he's really sleepy a lot of the time. Yeah, yay.
All right, I think I'm next. I am Abby Thorley. Hey, everybody. I'm co-mentoring this year with JC Davis, and we are looking for fantasy and mystery, contemporary, let's see what else, magical realism, and anything diverse. We want diverse stories, diverse places, and a little about me. We want historical fiction, and I write that too. I write historical fiction and fantasy, and I'm represented by Kathleen Rochelle at Andrea Brown. So that's me.
Hi, I'm Allison. Allison Ziegler. I write mostly fantasy. I'm represented by Emmanuel Morgan at Stone Song. And this year I'm looking to mentor atmospheric middle grade of all genres, but I have a special fondness for fantasy.
Hey guys, I'm Ashley Martin. I write fantasy, and I'm currently working on the contemporary, and I'm represented by Marietta Zacher of the Galt Zacher Literary Agency. I am a proud member of the Pitch Wars class of 2015, and I want all of your middle grade fantasy, magical realism, heartwarming contemporary, and mystery.
Is it my next?
Yeah.
This is me. I'm sorry, I was fiddling with my lower third here. It disappeared. I'm Brooks Benjamin, pretending like it says at Brooks Benjamin. My book is my 7th grade Life and Tights. Just came out April 12th. This year I'm co-mentoring with Caroline Thompson, and we are looking for realistic middle grade fiction that has some humor, a lot of heart. Definitely we're looking for something with some diversity and something that's not afraid to push the envelope a little bit.
I think I'm next. I'm Kate Foster. I'm author of Winnell Road series. I'm also an editor, which is more my life than writing. And this year I'm mentoring obviously middle grade and looking for pretty much all genres apart from historical, but anything really with a nice dark, quite disturbing undercurrent suits me, and some really, really well-defined characters. That's what I love the most.
Hi, my name is Rebecca Petrak. I write contemporary middle grade. My first book was Steering Toward Normal, and my next book, which will come out next fall, is Will Nolan Bugs, and I'm sure you can guess what the content of that book revolves around. They're both with Abrams Amulet, and I'm represented by Kate Kesterman of KT Literary. On my wish list is straight up contemporary, magical realism, anything with fairy tale elements. I like sci-fi, and anything in the 80s, set in the 1980s.
Hi, my name's Wade Elbert White. I'm going to be co-mentoring this year with Tamanda Wirtz. My first book is coming out. It's called The Adventurer's Guide to Successful Escapes, coming out in September. It's a middle grade fantasy and science fiction blend, and that's actually what we're going to be mentoring this year. We're looking for middle grade fantasy and science fiction, but we're casting the net wide. We're pretty much open to anything in there. So if you think your book fits in either of those categories, feel free to send it our way.
Awesome, and that is our amazing lineup for tonight, guys. And if you're following along on Twitter, Lee Marr is our Twitter captain tonight. She will be manning your questions through the hashtag AskMentor. So feel free to send some our way, and we'll try to answer as many as we can live. The first question's already in. It's from Kirk Craft at KA Craft, and the question is, instead of asking the favorite book question, who is your favorite writer of all time and why? Abby, would you like to start?
No, I will. Guys, that's a really hard question. And I used to be a school librarian before I was a writer, so I have like a lot of reading has happened in this lifetime, and a lot of author gawking, obsessing, and fangirling. Gosh, well, I think my favorite writer of all time is probably Andrew Clements, just because I distinctly remember Kindle as a book that sort of made me love reading. And that's really important. And that kind of inspires me as a writer to want to write a book to get some kid out there to love reading. So he's a writer that I really appreciate and admire. But, you know, there are so many, and I could probably talk for the next hour about all of them. But I'm not going to do that. You're welcome. Yeah. Next.
Okay, I'm next, and this is the hardest question. Probably, I'm just going to go with, my favorite book is Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clarke, and so she's probably my favorite. I just love how witty she was, and like the big world that she built, and how all of the threads came together. It's just, I love her writing. And then like my classic school answer would be Shakespeare. I'm a huge Shakespeare nut. I love The Bard. So that's not like fiction-y. Well, it is fiction, but not contemporary. So that's it.
I have to go next. I think I've been saying L'Engle like for this whole Pitch Wars thing. I keep putting it in my wish list and like tweeting about it. So I'm gonna go with Madeleine L'Engle. I love like A Wrinkle in Time. I like A Wind in the Door even better. I think she does a really great job of just like picking real things in real life that you might not know about most of the time. Like most kids don't know what mitochondria are when they read like A Wind in the Door, but she makes it really magical and really special.
My turn. Answer the dreaded question. It's hard. I have so many writers that I enjoy. I would probably say, I think I'm going to have to say two. I would say Alan Bradley's one of my favorites. Writes the Flavia de Luce series, and I'm always in awe of his ability to describe a scene and a setting in such amazing ways that you're like, I never would have thought of describing a cemetery with those words. Like, it's just amazing. And then I would say Kate DiCamillo, just because she's so versatile, and I love how she's written so many different things, and her books almost always make me want to cry, and I think they're beautiful. So I would say she's definitely at the top of my list.
Good choices. I'm going to have to go with probably Stephen King, the most non-middle grade author I think of probably. But I'd say I've read so many of Stephen King's books. I'm obsessed with the Dark Tower series. I am. I mean, everything that he's written ties in so wonderfully to it, and he ties in the Dark Tower into everything else. It's just, I'm fascinated with the world he's made. Yeah, so Stephen King. But if I had to go middle grade, I'd say I have to go Catherine Patterson, just because, again, another author that makes me cry every time I read the books. So good.
For me, I have to hand it to Enid Blyton, just because my entire love of books and reading and writing and everything was born of reading those books at school when I wasn't supposed to, sitting up all night, you know. So it has to go to Enid Blyton. But I also just want to chuck in another, just because it's a bit naughty. I really love Liz Jensen. She writes adult, and it's super sonically dark and twisted and just fantastic. And this woman is she's just a word master, and I'd love to be her one day.
For me, the first author that popped to mind is Bill Watterson. He wrote the Calvin and Hobbes series, and I particularly love him because he was able to take complex ideas and make them accessible to a range of readers from 6-year-olds to 90-year-olds. But he also was very generous with his heart. He wasn't afraid to be very loving about people in the world on the page, and also very, very silly. So it's the perfect combination. But I appreciate that, comic art. So for a text writer, I would say John Connolly. He wrote the Book of Lost Things, which is brilliant in so many ways, as well as Samuel Johnson series for middle grade readers. He uses a lot of footnotes, which I love. And he's also an Irish writer, and his sentences are just lyrical and beautiful. So I always recommend John Connolly as well.
I'd have to say my favorite author is probably Douglas Adams. Is usually my go-to one. I love the ability to take what is completely absurd and things that shouldn't fit together at all and somehow carve a story out of those things and make me laugh. The big belly laughs that you can't control. And at the same time as his different series progress, there's actual depth there as well to the characters and whatnot. And it's the first series I remember reading where it made me think I want to write. Not necessarily that I want to be him or write his stuff, but you connect with a certain author or book in a way where you just think, this is what I want to do. And I would have to say that was the first author I read that that thought popped into my head and pretty much stayed there.
Awesome. Those are great answers, guys. We have our next question from @SarahAllenBooks, and she asked, several of you mentioned issue books on your wish list. What does that mean to you, and when is it too much? Does anyone want to jump in and take that one first? How about we go with Kate? Would you like to take this one for us?
Yeah, just unmuting, sorry. I will take issue books. They're not top of my list. I find a lot of issue books now are very forced, very contrived, very attempting to teach us all this moral lesson, and that's what bothers me. I think if it's an issue book, the issue needs to be hidden beautifully in a story. I want to read a story, I want to connect with characters, and I want this issue to be in the background. And an issue, if that's the question, what is an issue? You're talking kind of social issues that children and families and whatnot have nowadays that they have to deal with.
So does anyone else want to speak into that? Did anyone actually write that on their wish list who's on the show with us tonight?
I don't think I did.
Okay. So maybe on another middle grade night, come back and ask that question.
Yeah.
So while we are talking about submissions and such, how about we talk about what is the most important thing you're looking for in a submission, which, for those who are new to Pitch Wars, is the query and first chapter. Let's start with Ashley.
For me, it's all about character and voice. Like, those are the things that are going to pull me in the most. I want a character that I can really fall in love with. I think a lot of things in a manuscript, that may need to be worked on. There's a lot that you can do to fix pacing and plotting and all that kind of stuff. Like, I want to be really, really invested in the character, and I really like when a character has a really vibrant voice. Like, I know who that character is, what their personality is by the words they choose, what they say, how they respond to situations. Like, I like for them to jump off the page. Like, I know everything about them just from the voice, not even having to be told. Like, so yeah, that's number one for me, is character and voice for sure.
Brooks, would you like to go next?
Sure. Yeah, for me, I was kind of have to say voice as well. I mean, voice is so important. It's something that really I notice first. Anything that I read, one thing that I'm definitely looking for, of course, you know, we're going to pay attention to the query. I'm going to pay attention to the query, but I'm not really going to be as invested in that as I am the actual first pages. I want to be able to see from kind of the first couple of pages what your character's biggest desire is, what that want is that the character has. It doesn't have to come through explicitly, like, you know, so and so is a 12-year-old girl who wanted this. Don't do that. That's terrible. But it needs to come through subtly, through all the subtext, through every little dialogue your main character has, every little action, whatever your character thinks. You know, there needs to be hints pointing to what your character really wants. And then, of course, that'll be revealed later. But if we can do that, it helps me to really connect with the main character quickly.
Awesome. Kate, would you like to go next too?
Yeah. Did you say Kate?
Yeah.
Did you say me? Okay, sorry. Yeah, I'm 100% what Brooks has just said. For me, it's got to be character. I'm looking for immediately in those first few paragraphs. I want to know. Like I say, don't want to be told. I want to be told what their problem is, but I want to see a little hint, subtly, kind of in the writing that this character's got some problems and they really need them, and they're going to be thrown in the deep end in the next few pages. So for me, it has to be characters. Yeah, really important.
Awesome.
I think we will all say character, of course, and voice, but I also look for that sense of what the big picture is of the story, and I think part of that for me comes through being able to understand the character's logic and her decision making, and that it is coherent to the actions that she's taking on the page. That tells me that this is someone who has really thought through the entire story, not just the plot elements, not just the setting, but also the character's inner world, and that even if the character, she or he, are making decisions that I wouldn't make, as long as I can understand why they are making them and why the events are important to that character, then I'm in. So I look for that sense of the overall in the writing, and kind of confidence in the writing, if that makes sense.
Totally.
I'm going to echo narrative voice is key. A character with a goal is key. And let me be specific on one particular subgenre, portal worlds, or portal fantasy, where a character starts out in this world and then they end up, you know, like Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, where they end up in another world. So often I'll read the first chapter of that, and you can tell the first chapter is just all about the characters kind of existing here, and the real stories in the portal world. The characters in this world should have some sort of goal, something they're going after, and that should carry with them into the next world. Otherwise, there's no point in the first chapter. It's got to be there. So I think that's really key, that the characters, there needs to be something that they want, and if you can throw an obstacle in front of that before the end of the first chapter, all the better, I say.
To echo most other people, we're really looking for voice. But the reason this keeps getting repeated is that it really is that important, especially in middle grade. You know, you need to really channel your 12-year-old self as dorky and awkward, you know, with your braces. Imagine yourself with all those things going on, and just really try to get into that character. Otherwise, it really, you know, you can tell, and kids can tell too, if it's an adult kind of writing, talking down to them, like, oh, I know what 12-year-olds talk like, and they really don't. You really have to put yourself kind of in that place. Also, one other thing Gail and I especially are looking for is some kind of unique hook to your story, which is usually, I mean, it probably should be there, like in your first chapter. And by unique hook, I mean it doesn't have to be like, oh, once upon a time, the world exploded and turned into a bunch of cheese puffs, and every
world ever.
tried to eat them. You know, like, it doesn't have to be like, oh my God, giant, crazy shenanigans. It can, you know, maybe your story is about a girl who moves to a new school. Okay, but what about your girl and this new school and this story is unique and different than every other story where the girl moves to a new school. You know, that's a perfectly great storyline, but we want to know what is different and special about your story. So really try to make it clear in your opening, you know, what's the big hook, what's the big concept, and what makes your book stand out.
Okay, so I feel like going at the end is hard because everyone has taken all of my answers. But of course, voice. We're looking for big voices, and I liked what Abby said about a hook. Hook me from the beginning. Don't make me wait 10, 20, 30 pages to get down to the good stuff. I want to see it right from the get-go. I want to know what your character wants, and I'm a big sucker for settings. So I love big settings. I love interesting settings. Like, really get me into your world right from the beginning and show it to me. Don't tell me about it. Show me. And I really liked what Rebecca said about confidence. I think that that is so key, especially in the beginning. I want to know that I am in the hands of a really competent storyteller and that they are going to take me on this journey and that I can trust them and their writing. So I'm looking for confidence, too.
Awesome.
And now I have to go last, which is great. But yeah, the voice, the character, I was just going to echo Rebecca again with the confidence, so thanks. Sorry. It's okay. It's all good. But yeah, I just really want to feel like you're the right author with the right book, and you have a story that you believe in, that you're going to carry me through, and I want to feel very well taken care of.
Awesome. As you can see, guys, there's a lot of, a common trend here, so pay attention to those things. We have a great follow-up question, actually, from Diana D. Bolt. Again, I apologize in advance if I butcher anyone's names tonight. After reading a full or partial manuscript, what kinds of things would make you say no? Since we seem to all be like a hive mind tonight, how about if someone really wants to answer this, you do this really fast and I'll pick on you. Anyone? Wade!
It's so late. I was too late with it.
Too late. Sorry, Brooks. From my experience last year, I would say very quickly, the reason I said no to a few that I thought were otherwise pretty good is I thought there wasn't enough time to do the work that needed to be done in the 2 months that were there. 2 months sounds like a lot, but Tamanda and I are going to be trying to do 2 passes, so that means you're only going to get maybe 4 or 5 weeks on the first pass, and then we're going to need it for at least a week to go through again. So 2 months is not as much time as you think. So if we think it needs too much work, even though we otherwise think that it's a story worth getting edited, then we might make a pass on that basis.
Awesome. Anyone else want to take a shot at this one?
I'll jump in and say that it's one of the reasons that I may have said no to a few manuscripts is just simply because, again, let's say that goal, that want that your character has isn't really translating within the first chapter. And that makes it kind of hard to connect with him or her just because, we need to get a pretty good sense of maybe not the external goal that he or she wants, but just some sort of want that, is kind of driving this character throughout his or her day.
Awesome. And I'm not a middle grade person, but I just want to throw it out there that as a mentor, I hate big typos in the first chapters. So I said this last night, and I think it's worth saying, make sure you proofread your things, guys, before you send it to us. We are going to take a mini break from the serious discussions and go to some fun questions. And the first one is, hey guys, what would be your favorite fictional food that you'd want to try? Let's start with Allison.
Oh no, okay. I know we said before that everybody's gonna say Harry Potter, but I'm totally gonna say Harry Potter. I want Felix Felicis. I want the super duper ultra luck drink. And have a great day. It'd be awesome. Just chug this stuff.
Overwhelming. I was expecting to be down than that. Sorry.
I am not going to go with Harry Potter. I was going to, I'll admit, and then I realized that. I know, I'm such a disappointment.
Great background
I have to go with schnozberries. I mean, I want to know.
Yes.
A schnozberry tastes like schnozberries, but that doesn't tell me what it tastes like. I have to try it.
That's good. I take back the trombone sound. All right, I'll jump in with, I want from the Dark Tower series, the drink that they always drink, Graf, which is like this spicy beer apple cider kind of mix, and then berry muffins. Forget what they're exactly called, but they're like cupcakes and like muffins that are just like all mashed berries, and they just sound so good when they eat them. I'll describe them later. It's just good.
Who's making me?
And I'll jump in as well. I'd go for I think it's called the fizzy drinking water, is it, in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory?
Mm-hmm.
That I'd love to have a little go at that. That would be awesome fun at burping. So I would just master that whole experience, I think. So that's my vote.
I was the one earlier who said, aren't we all going to choose something from Harry Potter? So, of course, anything from Harry Potter is on my list. And just to add to it, also maybe honey cakes from The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. They're a twice-baked cake, and I love cake. So.
Who doesn't love cake? I love cake.
Great.
I'm going to go with from The Princess Bride when Wesley is mostly dead, and they make that. The guy makes the little chocolate-covered pill, and I would put a note on it saying, "If you ever finally mostly dead, feed me this." That would be my choice.
That's bad.
That's a good answer. Everyone loved that way. That was impressive.
Yeah,
Keep it in my pocket, right?
Yeah, there's a cake over here. Anybody have a birthday? You want both candles? I'm going to go with the Boneyard Brew. It's from Natalie Lloyd's The Key to Extraordinary, which is a really, really good book. And if you haven't read it, you should. It's amazing.
So good.
And Boneyard Brew, it sounds kind of scary, but actually it's this kind of super delicious hot chocolatey thing of hot chocolatey goodness. I don't even know, but I want it.
Any of the ice cream flavors from her book.
Right?
Any cake, really.
Yes.
So I would have to go with November cakes from the Scorpio races. The whole time I was reading that book, I just needed one of those. They're like honey and gooey and delicious. And also the coconut scones from The Girl of Fire and Thorns. That whole book made me hungry. I wanted to eat everything in that book. So pretty much any type of cake or scone or, anything gooey and delicious.
Hungry.
Awesome. Guys, take notes. If you do get picked or you want to bribe a mentor, not that we allow that, bake one of these things. I can't go wrong with that. We got a great question here from Margot Owen. Up or down for comps and queries and your minimum, maximum manuscript word count? Anyone would have a preference on that they would like to just jump in and answer?
I'll tackle it. I'm fine with comps and queries. I usually tell people to try and stick within the last 2 to 3 years, although admittedly I broke that rule in my own query for my book. But I think if you have a really good reason for comping an older book, that's totally fine, but you need to have a really, really firm reason for doing so. But it's really personal preference, I think. You don't have to. If don't feel like you have to go out and find something that's the comp for your book. You don't have to force it. If you have something that readily comes to mind, go for it. If not, don't worry about it. And then as far as word count, there's a list that I usually go by. It's off of Jennifer Loughran's website, and I maybe will find the link and tweet it later. That has a good range. I would say for middle grade, I want to say the general is 40 to 60. I think if you can hit 50, that's a really good goal to go for. It, again, might depend on your specific genre and what you're doing. Fantasy can go higher in most genres. So, yeah, I would say do a Google search, Writer's Digest. Like I said, I'll tweet that link later. That's a really good jumping off point for figuring it out. But I think if you can stay around 50, that's generally a good rule.
Awesome.
And I can add something to that. when my first book, Steering Toward Normal, was sold, it was at 54,000, and after revising with notes from my editor, it ended up being 70,000. And my editor did flinch, which was great. But in the contract for my next book, Will Nolan Eats Bugs, it says in my contract that I have to hit 50,000. And part of that is because there is real expense in books being longer, right? They have to add more pages. The books are bigger. They can't get as many into a box when they're shipping. So keeping in mind that, yes, of course, your story needs as many words as it needs, but there are more pragmatic considerations that your agents and your editors will consider as well when they're looking at buying your book. So.
Awesome. We have a really cool question over here. What do you wish you'd done differently when or if you were a mentee? And this one's from the Davis girl. I know Ashley was a mentee before. Has anyone else been a mentee in Pitch Wars? Me. Awesome. Take it away, guys. Then let's start with Brooks.
Okay. Can you repeat the question again? I'm sorry. I was listening. I promise. It's just my microphone.
It's all my fault.
What I would do differently? What I would have done differently?
What do you wish you'd done differently when or if you were a mentee?
Okay. Oh gosh. Let's see. I remember applying for, or like sending in a manuscript for Pitch Wars like a few years ago before I got in, and I'll kind of speak to that. One thing that I wish I'd done differently is figured out where my story needed to start. I learned from that mistake. I didn't get into Pitch Wars that year, but I will say I really wished I'd kind of figured out exactly where to start, because I'd started way too early, and then when I ended up rewriting the entire book, I figured out, oh, I can cut out this entire first part and then start here, and that's a good spot. That's really hard to do, and that's one thing that I struggle with. I just kind of wish I'd taken the time to sit down and figure exactly what the beginning point needed to be.
Awesome. Abby?
Me? Or Abby? I'll go. I'm already talking. Okay, so what I wish I would have done differently, I was a mentee back in 2013, and I wish that I would have been bolder online and just like making friends and getting involved in the community. I was really super shy when I first got on Twitter, and I got on Twitter like for the Pitch Wars contest, and so I was kind of scared to interact, but like make friends with each other and critique each other's stuff and make friends in the community, and then that way, no matter what happens, if you get picked or you don't, you're winning. You're coming out winning. I did get picked, and I had an amazing experience with my mentor, but I wish, like, I did make good friends, but I wish I would have put myself out there more.
Awesome. Allison?
I wish I had worried less. I freaked out before agent round. I was like a total mess. I was refreshing my page over and over and over and over again all day long. That was a terrible idea. It was really awful. And people are going to request or they're not. And I wish I had sweated that aspect a little less, because ultimately the requests that I got during agent round, while nice, were not really now 2 years later, not the things that I look back on Pitch Wars and say oh, that's what I really got out of the contest. So make connections, make good friends, but don't sweat stuff that you can't control.
Ashley?
I had a really great experience as a mentee last year, in 2015. So I'm kind of gonna piggyback off of what Brooke said, and I entered in 2014 and didn't make it. And I think what I really wish that I had known then, that I've learned since then, is to really make the stakes of your story clear in your query. That was the feedback that I got most from the couple of mentors that sent me feedback, even though I didn't get in, was just to make sure that the query, the the meat of your query is really your story. Don't worry about the bio. Don't worry about so much of the other stuff, but really focus on your story and make sure that the stakes are clear.
And Abby?
I think I probably would have just tried to enjoy the process a little more. I mean, I did. I had like the coolest experience. Gail is like the best mentor ever. She still teaches me things. I text her frantically like 10 times a day, like, what do I do? How do I spell this? What's happening in my life? And she'll like, no. But I think, just enjoy the process, because it is a lot of work, and it is, at times stressful, and it can be frustrating. And, like Allison, I was really nervous about the age round, and I was just, so focused on, getting to this kind of finish line, that sometimes I missed fun stuff that was going on around me, like, talking to people on Twitter, and just, being really proud of myself when I made a big revision in the manuscript that really, changed things in a good way. So I think, remember to celebrate the little victories along the way, because they're not little victories. They're actually like big, giant victories that matter for the rest of forever. So just, try to get rid of any long-range, I must get an agent after this or else kind of thoughts, and just really enjoy working with people online, working with your mentor if you have one, and making the best book that you possibly can.
That's awesome. And that's, the beautiful part of Pitch Wars really is the community. I mean, you get to meet other authors, become friends, find critique partners, and, these are your tribe, and hold on to them. Don't think of them as competition. Just go make friends. Was that everyone who was a mentee before, I think? Yes, I didn't leave anyone out? Okay. So the next question is from Melissa J. Miles, and she asks, do any of the MG mentors have a strong preference for POV, first person over third person, for instance, in the MS that they are seeking? Anyone want to jump in on that? Strong preferences?
I don't have a strong preference at all. I read first, third, multiple. Yeah, it's all about the writing. It's all about the characters. You're going to do more than one point of view. Make sure you know all the characters who are talking. Write what style suits your voice. Yeah. So I have no preference at all.
I don't either. I really am. It's all about the writing. It's all about the characters and the voice. Whatever you feel fits your story best. My finished book is in third. The one I'm working on now is in first. I think it's really about the story and how the story wants to be told.
Awesome. I think, too, that for me, I have a slight preference for third, because it gives you that little bit of distance to articulate thoughts for your middle grade character. Middle grade characters, especially if it's a kind of dark issue or a more intense or complex emotion, aren't necessarily the kind that are going to be able to articulate it in a way that most readers can understand. So for me, a third person gives me just a little bit of room so that I can help my main character express some of those more difficult moments a bit more readily. I love a good first-person voice. It's not that it has to be third, but for me that tends to be where I go for that reason. So
awesome. Before we move on, I just have to say, Ashley, I notice you have a gorgeous mug over there.
I do.
Show it to everyone for us.
Hold it up.
Hey. I think yours is different than mine. I think mine's the big logo, and you have something on the back.
Yeah, I have a little one, and mine has the mentors going to battle for you tag on the back.
Fabulous. So for all this year, Pitch Wars has teamed up with Writer's Life Apparel for Pitch Wars swag. The mentors got, lured in with awesome mentor swag. Like, I have a shirt that says mentor on the back that I love. And they're releasing some mentee and just people who enjoy Pitch Wars in the community, other type of shirts. Some say hashtag Pitch Warrior, and that's coming out soon. So make sure you go and check those out. 30% of the proceeds go towards helping the Pitch Wars community. So go check that out. Our next question is from Crystal Rosewater at DC Rosewater. And she asked, are you a plot first writer or a character first writer? What's your personal process in forming a story? Let's start with Wade.
That is an interesting question. For my first book that I wrote, I would have to say I kind of went plot first. Because I kind of came up with the world in the first place, and I kind of thought, well, what kind of story is going to take place here? And then I got some ideas for characters and started to put those in. And I tend to be an outliner at the start, so I would outline the entire book first. In fact, I just got edits back in my second book, and for that I outlined it. I knew how many chapters, I knew where each chapter started and ended. But then I kind of, once I got in the mix, let it go as it came along. But anyway, plot first, I guess, for me. Although characters are very important.
I think I'm more of a character first person, although I've noticed it kind of varies. Sticks and Stones was the first book I ever really wrote, and for that, the character just kind of came to me. She was sort of like talking to me in my head in a non-creepy kind of way, and I just sort of pieced together the character with different ideas I had for a plot. But it seems like it's almost kind of different every book, because that was how I did this one. And then for my second book, I sort of had an idea for the plot first, and then I kind of made characters who would kind of go along with that plot. It's different every time. You just never know what's going to happen. Although consistently I am not an outliner. I just like to kind of make it up as I go along, which leads me to some really, 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 really messy first drafts. With a lot to go back and fix later. But I like doing it that way. I just like to kind of get everything out of my brain and then go back and see what works. But generally, I think I prefer to start with a character and then figure out, I like the internal stuff, like how this character is going to change and grow, and then I try to figure out a plot that can support that.
Hey, can I just jump in and ask Wade to say outline again?
Outline?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's cool,
Canadian,
man.
right? Canadian. That's fine.
So Nova Scotian of you. All right.
I can say all the words you want me to.
Say about.
About?
That's perfect. That's all we needed. We can cut the feed, guys. We're done. We're good. Yeah. I'll say I'm also a very character person. I always write or start a story idea with character. I don't think I've ever actually started a manuscript with story. It's always started off with character. And I'm sort of like Abby. I'm a very, very much a pantser, but I do have a very short, little, concise outline that I kind of make, so I guess I'm a planter. But yeah, that's one thing that I've kind of learned from my mistakes. I've got to do some sort of outline, or I'll never get a manuscript finished, or it'll be like a completely different story by the time I do. One more time, Wade.
Outline.
Anyone else want to take a go at that question? We're getting more. For those tuning in, remember, hashtag #AskMentor, and we will jump on your question as quickly as we can.
Sure. I'll add that it's a symbiotic relationship, right, between character and plot, because plot happens because of the decisions that your characters make. So for me, I tend to start with a lot of things that can happen, which I call plot, and I try to organize it in a way. And then I end up taking out probably 2/3 of those things because the character needs more room to react to events, to make the decisions, to take new actions. So for me, I often say I start with plot, but it's more that I start with a lot of things, and then I see how the character would behave in some of those situations, and if the next decision he makes will actually lead to one of the other actions that I want. And what tends to happen is scenes that I thought would be later in the book end up being an exciting incident, and then something that I thought would be a midpoint is actually the finale. So many times the plot points will be things that I know this will work really well in some form, but I don't know how my character will get there, and I'll often be turned around a couple of times during writing. So.
Awesome. So we did get a question about additional materials that you'll request if you like someone's initial query and first chapter. So I was just wondering, for you guys, are you going to be asking for more chapters? Are you going to ask for partial spools? And is anyone going to ask for the dreaded synopsis? Let's start with Allison. Would you like to
Sorry. I am, yeah, I'm probably going to ask for a synopsis. That's terrible.
Like, who drove a truck through the...
I think it tells you a lot about the book. They're a pain to write, but they're helpful. I write them for me. I actually like a synopsis better than an outline. So... yeah, no, I will ask. That will happen.
Yeah, I probably will too. But I'll help you make one. I've got a few ways to kind of write a synopsis. So, but definitely, I will be asking for more chapters if I like something for sure. Yeah.
And I want to jump in and say your synopsis doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be voicey. We're going to be asking for a synopsis, but just give us a general idea of how your book is going to unfold so we can make sure, you know, it's going in a direction that we like and the plot points that need to be there are there. And we're definitely going to be asking for fulls. So have your fulls ready and have your synopsises ready. But like Brooke said, we'll help you with the synopsis. And they're actually really handy. Like, I always have to write a synopsis for my agent. And you kind of need it to go on submission. So you're just going to have to bite the bullet and get used to writing synopsises. Synopses?
Yeah. And one good way to like start a synopsis, if you've got what's it called? Wade, help me out. What's that called again?
An outline.
Yeah, if you've got one of those, writing a synopsis becomes.
It's gonna be a Canadian outline though.
I love you, man. You are just amazing.
Anyone else want to speak to that?
I think pretty much what everybody else has said. My top picks, I'll definitely ask for a full, and synopsis doesn't have to be perfect. So.
Yeah, I definitely made the mistake last year. It was my first time as a mentor, and I loved so many of the submissions. I asked for all these fulls, and it was a lot of reading. They were all beautiful, though. So I'm probably going to ask for less this year. This question is from @TheDavisGirl, and she asked, how frequently do you communicate with your mentee, and or how much time do you commit to their manuscript? And this is for previous mentors. Let's start with Allison.
This is my first time. I am not a previous mentor. That's okay. I do know that, like, from my mentee experience, my mentor and I talked a lot. We had phone calls, we texted, we emailed back and forth. I'd like to keep in pretty close contact, so that's the plan.
Awesome. Anyone else have a, like, how do you generally communicate? Is it different with each mentee? Do you prefer phone or Skype or just email?
I'll jump in. For Tamanda and I, we actually haven't talked about quite how we'll do this, but last year it was mostly email. And for myself, I'll probably stick mostly to that. You can tweet at Tamanda, and see what she wants to do. But I usually stick with email, but I'm available pretty much most of the time. So you can't send too many emails my way, too many questions. My thought is that I'm there for those 2 months to answer whatever questions you have about whatever part of the process. So I'll spend as much time as your manuscript needs to go through it and give notes, and I'll be available to answer as many questions as you have.
Awesome.
And I do email, but I also do a lot of Skype and phone. I think that there's something really powerful that happens when we put both of our brains together and are trying to brainstorm. or problem-solve ideas. And it's in those comments that just kind of surprise us that we'll often find the best answer. So I like to talk a lot in person. I do, of course, send plenty of notes, probably more than you want to read, in email and on the manuscript, but definitely I will be on Skype with you. So.
For me, it'll be email for me because of the time difference and where I am in the world, it just is easier for email. But I'll always be thinking about the manuscript, so you could get like 5 or 6 emails in a day where I've just like gone, oh no, actually that's a really bad idea. Let's do this instead. So yeah, I'll be a bit hit and miss with emails. I also do, happy to chat, Twitter DM and Facebook PM or whatever it is, and but it's going to be some kind of online chat. Skype, I can arrange Skype if that's what the mentee wants to do, but with time difference that's tricky. And I'm just going to answer the last question real quick. For me, I might not ask for any extra with my submissions, so just putting it out there.
That is very exciting.
You're a crowd favorite now.
Thanks.
So we are coming up on the hour, so we aren't going to take any more Twitter questions. So those who submitted on hashtag AskMentor, don't worry. Other mentors, and even possibly these, will go on Twitter and answer you there. So keep the questions coming. They will not go unanswered, and there will be other middle grade chats, and there's another chat tomorrow with the new adult mentors. But to close tonight, we're going to talk one last question, and everyone's going to answer. What is the #1 piece of advice for writers trying to make it? And let's start with Abby.
Or somebody else. No. The #1 piece of advice, I know, have lots of cupcakes handy. Or not necessarily, but like whatever your thing of choice is. I'm serious. This is a very serious piece of advice. Whatever your thing is that you need that either calms you down when you're stressed. Oh, Lewis just got me his toy. Calms you down when you're stressed, or rewards, is happy for you when you're happy. Whatever those things are, have them handy, because you deserve rewards for working hard, and you deserve things that make you happy, also for working hard. And writing is amazing and rewarding and fun and special and great, but it can be challenging at times, and it's important that you just take deep breaths, take breaks, and eat cupcakes when you need them.
Yeah, I just want to jump in there and say that I love that answer. I think my book needs to be dedicated to Ben & Jerry's, because without that, or without the ice cream, I don't think the book would have been written. So anyway, eat cupcakes, guys, or whatever mellows you out. Addie.
Yes. So my biggest piece of advice is to focus on the writing. Focus on what you can control, because there are so many things, like everything in this business is out of your control, and that's going to be true in pitch wars. Like, you can't control, if you get chosen, you can't control who requests your manuscript in the agent round, and beyond that, nothing is in your control, and that drives me crazy. So I was going nuts trying to grope for some control in all of this process, but when I just dialed it back and really focused on the writing and making my story the best it could possibly be, I was so much happier and more fulfilled. So I would say that, and I would also say write what scares you. Like, if you aren't a little bit nervous about what you're writing, you're not pushing yourself hard enough. So I always want to try to be like, leveling up, taking that next step. So, and also have fun. Eat cupcakes and ice cream.
I'm going to say always, do it for the love of it. Just never, ever lose sight of the fact that you're really lucky that you found something that you really love to do, and it's hard, and people are going to tell you no all the time, and you're going to want to give up, you're going to want to cry. You probably are going to cry, like, all the time. And, but you're still, doing what you love and pursuing something big and great, and enjoy it.
I would say be willing to put in the work and don't give up when it gets hard. I mean, it's going to get hard. It's really easy to look at a lot of other writers on social media and feel like it's easy for some people and it's just hard for you, and it's not. It's hard for everybody, every step of the way. I love the quote that says, "Don't compare your story to someone else's highlight reel." Really try not to compare where you're at with where other people are at, because you never know like how much they've struggled to get there, or how much hard work it's been, or how many years they've been querying, or how many books they've written. You know, really fight that desire to compare, and just stick with it even when it gets hard. You know, success isn't always easy. It doesn't usually come overnight. Just keep working and keep at it, and take breaks when you need it. Practice self-care. I agree. Cupcakes, ice cream, you know, it's okay to step away for a day or a week if you need to recharge. Personally, as a creative, it's really easy for me to get stressed out and burn myself out creatively and try to push myself too hard. I have to be really careful to recognize when I'm too stressed out to write anything of quality, and I just need to take a day off, and that's okay.
I'll say all of those pieces of advice are amazing, and I'll throw in, don't bank on Pitch Wars being the one thing that's going to get you to where you need to be. It's a wonderful opportunity, and if you do get picked by a mentor, you should be very proud of yourself, because it is a great opportunity. But do not think that if you don't get picked that you'll never get published, because that's definitely not the case. You know, appreciate it if you do. Like she said, put in the hard work, eat your cupcakes. But if you don't get picked, you're going to do that anyway. So, and the writing community on Twitter is still going to be here. It's not like we're going to disappear after Pitch Wars. So if you still need some help, there's going to be a huge group of people who are probably going to be able to help you out with something. You can find critique partners. I forget who said it, but they said their biggest regret was not getting on Twitter and asking questions and connecting with people. Addie, I think that was you. Was it you?
Yeah, it was me.
Yeah. So yeah, do that. Make sure you connect with people, because after Pitch Wars is over, you're still gonna be relying on these people to kind of help you through those tough times, beta read, all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
Okay, for me, you're the only person that knows the story that you want to tell, and you should be very proud of the book you've written, and it is very precious to you. But you need to be open to hearing ways to improve and change your story. If you're going to reject every idea that comes your way and say, oh, no, I'm not doing that, that's not what I want to write, you know, you're going to have a hard time, because the people, you know, not just us mentors or other writers, agents, whatever, can see a future for your book. They can see other potential that sometimes you're not going to see because you're too close to it. So be open and willing to take on new ideas for your book, different directions, and it will, you know, chunks and getting rid of characters, or it's going to be hard, but, you know, I'm just saying, be open to change and ideas.
I'll tweet the link as well, but T.K. Coleman has a wonderful essay on Medium called Critics Don't Leave Legacies, Creators Do. And I love that, because critics can make themselves feel better at someone else's expense, but creators can actually experience personal growth that is driven by their own passion, their own loves, their own interests. And I think this is being able to create art, and especially stories that children will read, is an amazing gift that we have. And so there are always challenges in publishing and just in the writing itself. But to remember that you are creating, you're following something that is incredibly meaningful for you, and to just always remember what you love about it.
That's all fantastic. It's a hard act to follow or think up anything. I'm going to echo or kind of springboard off of what Kate said in particular, the willingness to revise with two concrete examples. Before I signed with my agent, they gave me a revise and resubmit, what's called an R&R. It took me 2 months, 7 to 8 weeks, to do that R&R, almost like morning to night. There's no doubt in my mind that the willingness to go back in and do that revision was a huge part of why they were willing to sign with me, because it wasn't quite there. I still had to do work after, but showing the willingness to do it was a huge step forward. And then when I was in editing on my first book, we were like in the line edits, which is at the later stages of the edits, and my editor said, you know what, I think we got to drop chapter 6. If you've ever written a whole book and feel that you had it almost polished and then had somebody say, just rip out this chapter, that's a huge step at that stage, but we did it, and it made it so much better and so much stronger. So at every step along the way, the willingness to revise, rethink, edit your work is crucial. Even when you've got an agent, even when you've found a publisher, that continued spirit, that willingness to revise and rethink what you're doing, I think is absolutely essential.
Awesome. Those are fabulous answers, guys. I don't know about everyone who's watching, but you certainly have inspired me, and it's been great just chatting with you guys tonight. That is the end of the live Pitch Wars show with our middle grade mentors tonight. Thank you all for watching, and a special shout out to Lee Marr, who's been our Twitter captain tonight. She's been fielding. Thank you, Brooks.
I just stomped all over that. I'm so sorry.
Okay. As you can see, these people are fabulous and fun, and we just want to get to know you. So follow us on Twitter, go buy their books, and just hit us up. We'd love to talk to you. So I hope to hear from all of you who's watching. We'll go answer your questions on Twitter if they weren't asked, and or answered. And yeah, have a great night and good luck with Pitch Wars, everyone. We will talk to you later. Bye.